Hey everyone, Mario again, coming at you with another movie review. Today I'm reviewing a film I just had the pleasure of seeing in the theaters. It's a film that I remember seeing the trailer for and looked interesting. It of course is 47 Ronin, starring Keanu Reeves. Sorry, text. Now, when I first saw the trailer for this film, I don't remember what film I was seeing when I saw it, but I thought it kind of had the live-action anime type of feel, same type of feel that the trailer for Man with the Iron Fist gave me, though since I've seen both films, I can say Man with the Iron Fist is more like a live-action anime. This one just has kind of some of the vibe, but that can be chalked up to the fact that it takes place in a world where witches and demons and all that exist. And it is partially inspired by a true story. I guess my previous statement tells you why it's partially. They took the basic story and just made a fantasy version of it, which, in my opinion, works. But maybe it's because I actually like and know a little bit about Japanese folklore. Not as much as I'd like, though, but I know enough about it to understand the elements in the film. Which you can partially thank me. There's two things you can thank for that. Me just looking up stuff independently, and of course being a fan of the anime Inuyasha, because they do delve into it a little bit. Now, the film has a 6.8 on IMDb, which I'm feeling that's going to go down. It could be a little bit too high. I could see this film having like a 5.5 at most. But it'll go down probably by the end. Probably middle of the year we'll get a stable one. 62% on Rotten Tomatoes. It'll probably go down a little bit more, but that's a respectable score for this type of film. What baffles me is it has a 12 with the critics, which is like, what? Only 12% of the critics who watched this film liked it? I could see because it's not a full highbrow film, but it is an entertaining film, at least in my opinion. So I do disagree wholeheartedly with this statement. This is 47 Romans. 47 Romans, that would have been interesting. 47 Ronin is a surprisingly dull fantasy adventure, one that leaves its talented international cast stranded within one-dimensional roles. I would not say that. I wouldn't say it's dull or lackluster. Maybe a couple of the actors are in one-dimensional roles, but a couple of the characters in the movie are kind of throwaways. Especially a majority of the Ronin. I'd say in that regard it has that in common with... damn it. 13th Warrior, that's what I'm mistaken. It has that in common with the 13th Warrior, where not all the Vikings have, fully evolved personalities. They just have certain traits that they show off, and that's basically their character. Only a few of them do. In this case, the leader of the Ronin has a personality that is more his son a little bit, the fat one, which I guess you can see a little bit what he's used for, but unlike in, say, The Hobbit, he actually has dialogue that actually is kind of funny. I think mine's broken. I'm not going to spoil the context of that, but it is funny. At least I chuckled at it. And rest of them, they just there, kick some butt, and that's about it. Which that's kind of what I figured. With 47 Ronin, in a movie that is not a little less than 2 hours, you're not going to get all the characters that have character development. So if this was a miniseries or an anime, then I would expect at least some character development for all the characters, or at least explore their characters a little bit more. But for a 2-hour movie, I don't expect it. I don't expect the main characters to get that type of development, and they kind of do, which I'll go into a little bit. Now, the movie is directed by Carl Erik Rinsch, which I don't know if this is his first film. If it is, he did an interesting job for a first-time director. Now, this film had its release date pushed back a couple times. It was originally supposed to come out in November of 2012, then February of this year, and then, of course, it was pushed back to this. Why? I don't know. I don't know, maybe most post-production stuff. If it was to finish effects, I think it was a good job, because the special effects on this film are good. Yes, it is a lot. It is CGI, which for one thing, the Tengu, I think they could have used practical because of how it is on the face, but maybe the eyes at least look creepy the way they did it. The other stuff like moving cloth going through the air with someone transforming, that being CGI, kind of standard. A giant beast, standard that for to be CGI. Is that a bit true nowadays? That didn't really bug me. The set designs of feudal Japan, excellent. I have to say, if this movie deserves any Oscar nomination, it's for costume design and set design. But that's just my opinion. Whether it will be nominated, I don't know. Now, it was filmed in Japan, obviously, and it was also filmed in Budapest and in London. I think I know which scenes were filmed in Japan, but what was filmed in Budapest and London. In London, I'm guessing some of the indoor stuff. Now, the film is an action-adventure film as well as a fantasy film, because there is some scenes that are action-adventure that are kind of the way they are filmed and put together to kind of harken back to the old-school films, like the scene that we partially see in the trailer involving Keanu Reeves' character being sold into slavery. The scene that follows that kind of harkens back a little bit to some of the old swashbuckler films, and the only reason I'm guessing that's what it's harkening back to is because it reminds me of something out of Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm not saying it in a negative light, it's just that's stylistic-wise, that's what it reminded me of, so that's what I'm guessing they're going for a swashbuckling film there, whereas other films kind of have that old samurai feel to it, which for a film like this kind of fits. And of course the fantasy element is in there, so it has some of the creepy vibe to it, which that might all seem weird for a film just hearing it, but it just worked right, at least for me. Maybe not everyone will agree with me, but I'm going to go based on the audience scores. That audience seems to like this film more than critics do. At least that's what I'm going to say. Now, the plot of the film itself is that our main character is Kai, Reeves' character. He's an outcast. He's a half-breed. He's the illegitimate son of a British sailor and a Japanese peasant. His background, he was basically abandoned in the forest, and he was raised by these people called the Tengu, which, if you know your Japanese mythology, are basically bird creatures, but they don't really seem that. They seem more lizard-like in the movie, but maybe they're like dinosaur-like, I don't know. It's an interesting interpretation of the Tengu. They taught him magic, which he only uses once in the film, and some people might think it might be a Deus Ex Machina, but it's not, which I'm not going to spoil the context, at least right now, but he is raised among a lord called, there's a lot of Japanese names, so I'm going to use Wikipedia for this. Lord Asano, played by Tanaka. He is raised alongside the Lord's only child, Mika, played by Ko Shibasaki, and you can tell right away, even when they're children, that they do have a little thing going on, which does come into play a couple times in the film. And of course we got a friend who, I won't say it's a friend of Kai, more like a friend of the daughters, or maybe just protective of the daughter, who is Chikare, who is the son of the leader of Lord Asano's samurai, Oishi, played by Hiroyuki Sanada, which, if my memory serves me correctly, that name sounds familiar. Yes, and I am double checking my filmography right now. I mean his filmography. And I was right. He was the guy that played Mariko's father in the Wolverine. You know, the guy that had that one fight with Wolverine, you know, samurai versus a healed Logan. He does a good job in this role, and it shows a little bit more of his acting skill here, but he's a jerk in both films, but he's more of a forgivable jerk here because you can understand it, even more so if you know about Japan's culture and the whole honor system thing, which does come into play a lot during the film. Obviously, it's set in feudal Japan, that's going to come into play. Now, one evening when Kai and Mika are grown, they are having a visit from the Shogun, who is played in this film by Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa, Shang Tsung himself, which, if there was any appearance in the film that surprised me, it's this, because I'd never seen his face pop up in any of the trailers, never heard it. It's like a pleasant surprise. It's, hey, it's Shang Tsung in the movie, yay! And he plays the Shogun perfectly. You could not get better casting as the Shogun than Tagawa. And he is being joined by Lord Kira, played by Tadanobu Asano, and he is the lord of a nearby province called Nagato, which that got a little chuckle out of me because that's the name of a character Naruto, among an anime I love. Anyway, getting back off. He basically does not like Lord Asano, and he's having a little plan, which is where the witch comes into play. The witch is named Mizuki, and she is played by Rinko Kaikuchi. And she plays a witch perfectly, but I'll get to the acting later. But they eventually kill off Asano. I'm not going to spoil how, but it kind of fits. It's not what I thought it was going to be, but it works for what they want to do. All of his samurai now become Ronin, and Kira eventually is betrothed to Mika, and as her future husband, he now has control of the servants, and he sells Kai into slavery. A year passes. Oishi is taken out of the prison thing he was put in for a year to break his spirit, and he decides that he's going to gather up all the Ronin, because they're now Ronin, now a samurai without a master, and Kai, and seek revenge on Lord Kira against the Shogun's orders, because they were ordered right after they cannot seek revenge, and that's basically the plot. Now the first, I didn't time it, but I think the first 25-30 minutes is the prologue part setting up the whole thing, which I love that the trailer did not spoil that part. They made it look like that was actually the whole film, them going for him specifically, but I like that they hid the prologue part. That's interesting. The trailer doesn't give away all the movie, it just gives away the gist of it. The only part from that part shown is a scene where Keanu Reeves rolls, grabs a sword, and then sticks it up. Which I'm like, that's cool. I'll use only that scene. Now, obviously they're Ronin, so they first got to figure out, they got to get equipment, and then they got to go after Kira with the plan, which I'm not going to spoil all of it, but the last part of the final act is them, fighting. And it is appropriate who fights who. Oishi fights Kira, which is a little interesting duel. And Kai fights the witch, which is interesting, especially with how it ends. Now, I believe the movie is rated PG-13 because I didn't really see any blood and there wasn't really any nudity. You could have pushed it a little more to get the R rating, because there are a couple seppuku scenes. I'm not going to spoil the context of them right now, but you really didn't need to see it to actually get the whole thing in. It's effective without showing anything. You already know what's happening, but maybe the blood would have added to it, but just not really needed. I already said Carl's direction of the film was great. The score by I don't know how you pronounce this. There's two L. I think those are two L's by each other. There's one silent. It's basically L. I think. Wait a minute. Is that an? Wait a minute. That's an I and I think an L. Elan Cary. It fit the tone of the film. I'm probably gonna have to listen to the score independently to see how it is, but it fit the tone of the film. Cinematography was good. The film was well shot too. I thought at first in one of the opening scenes it had shaky cam, but as I looked more closely at it, I'm like, that's an optical illusion. What I mean by that is that the scene involves a lot of running horses, and with how it's filmed, it looks that the movement from the legs of the horses is messing with your eye, and it makes it seem like the camera is going up and down when it's not. Especially when you compare it to later scenes, which are shot, like more pan-wise, something that the guy who directed Live Free or Die Hard needs to learn, but I thought it was shot pretty good, and like I said, the set design already great. The film was edited pretty good. I like the narration too. Acting-wise, Keanu Reeves, you know how Reeves is as an actor. He's kind of like one of those actors that is limited in what type of roles he can pull off, depending on what he is. The reason I say that is because the way he comes off, he's kind of like he's kind of like Val Kilmer. Certain roles he really fits, some he doesn't, some he's like, eh. I haven't seen all of Reeves' roles, so I can't really comment on him, but he really fit this role because in the beginning, Kai is a character that, knows Japanese culture a lot because he's raised in it, because, it's part of his heritage as well. He's treated like a dog because of his half-blood status, which kind of fits, I guess. Obviously I wasn't in feudal Japan, so I don't know if half-bloods were treated like this, but based on how I know racism all over the world worked at different times, like here in America, I'm gonna guess it's because of that they're treating him like that. That and also their superstition about the marks on his head. Probably both. Probably using the marks to justify their hate, but that's a different story. Anyway, he defers a lot to them, bowing and all that. But as the film goes on, he opens up more, which I would expect a character to do. That's kind of his character arc. He becomes a little bit more assertive. Like in one scene where they're trying to get by some samurai when they're in a village of sword makers, and one of them looks at one of the guy's hands and is like, these are not farmers' hands. He's the one that makes the first move. He goes over, hits one, draws one of the swords, and starts a nice little fight. It actually is a little fight. And then, of course, by the end, fighting the witch, and then the ending. which I'll get to in a little bit. Sanada as Oishi does a good job. In the beginning, he's a jerk character you just want to smack, mostly because of how he treats Kai. But if you know Japanese culture, you know that a samurai would probably treat someone like this, especially if they didn't believe them. Like when Kai tells him about the witch being there, he's like, they say only demons can see through a witch's spell. Are you a demon? No. I didn't think so. Maybe you're only bewitched by a beautiful girl. You want to smack him for that, but his 1 year in the hole does kind of make him see the error of his ways, and of course, you know, escaping with Kai, and then of course all the stuff that happens in between makes him see the error of his ways. So his character arc is he becomes less of a jerk. Mika doesn't really have a character arc other than being, you know, I wouldn't say she's kind of the typical damsel in distress, but which for Japanese culture you would think that's what they would go with, but they make her a little more assertive. Like one scene near the end, she does actually do something which I'm not going to spoil, but it fits. At least from what her character has been put through, especially on screen and possibly off screen for the whole year. Asano, yeah, that's actually kind of funny. There's a character named Asano and an actor named Asano. I just noticed that. Asano is Lord Kira. He did a good job. You hate him as a villain. You just want to smack him. The guy looked familiar. I'm just going to check real quick what else the guy's been in. Oh, that's why the guy looks familiar. It's Hogun from the 2 Thor movies, you know, the Asian member of the Warriors 3. That's interesting. Can't believe I forgot he was going to be in this. He's the villain. Nice. Shows he's versatile. He's a guy that can play a hero and he can play a villain. I like it, actors can do that. You really, let's just say that, I'm not going to spoil a lot about his comeuppance right now, but let's just say that if you know Japanese culture, it is a fitting one. Tanaka as Lord Asano. For the bit he's in the film, he does a good job as a lord. Jin Akan Ishii does a good job as Chikara, Oishi's son. The rest of the actors do good for what they have to do. Tagawa, like I've already mentioned, great as the Shogun for the couple scenes he's in. Rinko Kikuchi as Mizuki the Witch. If there's any actor in the film that goes over the top a little bit, it's her, but it kind of fits because she's a witch, and obviously if you're a witch, you're going to want to try to scare people. You want to avoid a fight or all that, or just freak people out, and she does a good job for what she has to do. Of course, I thought I recognized her too. She was in Pacific Rim where she played the love interest. I'd say she does a better job here because her character has a little bit more substance here than she does in the other film, which she's basically... She has a little substance there, but there's more to work with here, I think. And of course, she, like I mentioned before, she's Academy Award nominated actress for Babel, which I haven't seen yet. But here's a little more like I said, a little more substance to her character. And without showing footage, it's kind of hard to fully go into why her slight over the topness is excusable. It's just, you know, I guess it just comes down to the fact she's a witch trying to scare people. You know, it's kind of the same way like when it's a crazy character. Say it's excusable then to an extent. Here it is, especially in a scene where she's in front of Mika, and it's kind of, maybe it's just maybe it came, that scene, it came off that like the witch had some slight lesbian tendencies. Not that that's a bad thing, it's just, maybe it's just me looking at it and thinking that's what it kind of looked like. Or maybe the witch did that intentionally to try to freak her out with how she's doing it. Maybe the witch is also a little insane. We don't really know a lot about her backstory, other than the fact she turned into a fox. That's about it. Now, I am, of course, going to have to talk about the ending, because the ending was bittersweet, which, that's all I'm going to say about it right now. You know the drill by now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The ending is bittersweet because the villain gets a comeuppance, he gets his head decapitated. Why? I'm not going to spoil still. The witch gets killed, which that's the scene that I mentioned earlier where Kai uses magic. And then all the samurai, except for one, are forced to commit seppuku. Now, the reason I think you can already guess is that they were ordered not to seek revenge, and they did, so the shogun has no choice. He could have hanged them like common criminals, but he gives them the choice, he gives them the option to select seppuku. Well, it's not really an option, he gives them the honor of committing seppuku, because that's, from their point of view, that's what it would be. Because committing seppuku, you get to regain some honor, if you have lost it. And of course they all do it, which with Kai you'd think he would probably... I thought at first two things. That one, the Shogun was going to have Kai step out like how he did earlier, like, you are the samurai, you do not deserve a samurai's death. My guess he didn't say that because you fought well like a samurai, you will die as one. Or, and the other thing I thought Kai might do was use his magic to escape, but he didn't. Now, I wouldn't say I'm disappointed with the ending, but like I said, it is bittersweet. Though it does give a grain of happiness to it because of what Kai tells her. They do confess they love each other, and they do share a kiss. It's just that, like, I will wait. I'm gonna mess up this line that he tells her and writes as a seppuku poem, but it's basically, I will wait 1,000 lifetimes, search 1,000 lifetimes to find you again. Which is kind of, you know, it's kind of like, I guess, the ending. Not the same, but if you've seen What Dreams May Come, you know the ending. Robin Williams and his wife get reincarnated. I guess you could say it's kind of like that they will meet in another lifetime. But this one is a little bit more subtle. That one, well, for that film, that showing them actually get reincarnated works. Here it's subtle. You don't know if it will happen or not. But in a world where witches and things work, reincarnation is not that out of the... I wouldn't say, I was about to say out of the ordinary, but that would be it. But it's not that out of the realm of possibility it could happen. And again, bring up Inuyasha, it happens there. So I guess another little thing I noticed there, or just maybe that's just how I view the ending. Maybe that's just affecting how I view the ending. I don't know. And I don't really think there's anything else I could say about the ending without showing footage. It's an ending that everyone might not like, but I think for this film it does fit, because I haven't looked up the 47 Ronin in real life, but I have a feeling that they did commit seppuku, so going with that fits, I guess. If the ending is not your cup of tea, I'll say it's fine. I guess we agree to disagree on that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In conclusion, the film is a pretty good film, in my opinion. Has excellent sets, great cinematography, acting, at least from the main characters, is great. The side characters do a good job with what limited they have to do. Dialogue works, in my opinion. The few fight scenes in the movie are shot pretty well. The ending is bittersweet, which that might be probably... I don't really have a big problem with that, but that's something that might be a mark against the movie for some. And it's by no stretch of the imagination a perfect film, but for me it is an entertaining film, and for that it does get my recommendation. If you are a fan of Keanu Reeves, or if you like sword films and fantasy films and stuff like that, I give it a 4 out of 5. And like I said, recommend you see it, whether you see it in theaters or wait. I just felt like seeing a film like this today, because I want to go to the movies. I'm like, what do you want? I don't want to watch that. I don't want to. I'm just gonna watch this. And also the fact, when was the last time we saw a samurai movie in theaters? No. Wolverine doesn't count because it technically wasn't all about samurai. This one was. Off the top of my head, the last one I can think of was The Last Samurai.